Hello once again, it's your boy That's No Moon, and we are back, and this time we are joined by a very special guest. You'll all know this guy, I'm sure. We've got Licol on the channel. Licol, how are you doing this evening?
Not too bad, Moon, mate. How are you?
I'm all good, and today's subject of the video is going to be 3v3. We have 3v3 upon us, and at the time of doing this, GAC lock-in has literally just opened, so make sure not to hit that join button in error. If you're anything like me, you see that join button, or you see any button and you hit it, but not until you've done some remods. But we're going to talk a little bit about early game teams, and I'm going to be taking those. Lycol, what teams are you going to be taking as well?
I'll take the mid-game teams.
Okay.
God, it feels like forever ago since since me and you were mid-game, but yeah, we'll have a pop. We'll have a pop.
Yeah, indeed. And you can all tell us in the comments as well, like how badly we've got it wrong. But we're going to try and give our 2 cents and try and give you some food for thought in terms of splitting it. And in terms of the structure, I was having a look at very early game teams because I think there's a lot of really, really good characters in there, especially from the Hyperdrive bundle, or these might naturally be the characters that you're farming anyway. So yeah, first and foremost, my first team, so I haven't shown you any of my teams for early game, and you haven't really shown me any of your teams for late game, so we're just going to, whenever we tell a team, some of us are going to like interject as well and give some advice as well. So my first team for early game is going to be Newt, is going to be Dooku, and is going to be Django as well. Now Django... Oh. I know, right? That is a tough team early game. When you think
That's
about...
a tough team end game, Moon. That's a tough team in the end game.
100%. But it works across the whole levels and the whole spectrum, because when you've got any separatist leadership, Django's going to gain, damage immunity for 2 turns.
Yeah, basically his contract, so...
Yeah, too right. And Dooku is just, put him with plenty of potency on there, and he's going to absolutely control the battlefield. And then Newt's leadership is that is a leadership not to be faffed with. Still breaks us out into sweats like mid game and late game as well. That is a tough team, and people are going to have to go hard on that one. The other one that I quite like in there as well is I have seen it before where people have put like towards the mid game when they've got B1 and Geobrood Alpha as well. You've got Newt, Geobrood Alpha, and B1, and that is an absolute nightmare because you've got a taunting tank to start with. You've got B1 who is like just healing up everyone, and that is a horrible team as well. I have bad experience. I've lost.
Not to mention that you're completely outnumbered as well because it's generally 4 on a 3, isn't it, with the alpha in there?
Yeah, exactly, and that's the beauty of that character as well. So again, if you've farmed up Geobrood Alpha, rather than sort of put him in with a Geo team, it depends how much you've got to stretch it. Lower divisions, you'll probably have quite a few, and a lot of people will like to keep them on offense as well. So this is all just team suggestions, and you guys are going to have to make your decisions, but we're going to hopefully give you a few ideas to go with here. Now my second team is going to be Old Ben. Now Old Ben's leadership I really like, and I've also got Ezra.
That was the bane of the start of the game, Moon. That was the absolute bane of my life when it was like just squaddery. People setting that before there was unavoidable basics and R2 putting down burn. Old Ben and Dooku, my God. And in 3v3, you're absolutely right. It's it's still annoying.
Yeah, and when you think about the leadership, I think it's not a Zeta, it's only Omegas to put those on. But all allies are going to gain 15% evasion, and they're going to gain a huge bunch of turn meter, 30% turn meter whenever they evade attack. Now, it is a little bit choppy. It sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't. But the other side of it is your opponent now has to work this out. Now, I've paired them up with 2 other rebels, which are Phoenix, because I believe that you can split Phoenix into 2 teams for 3v3. So I've gone with Ezra, and I've gone with Sabine, because Old Ben is essentially going to be your tank in there. You've got 2 attackers. So again, they've really got to work out, well, how am I getting through this? Because they need to get a lot of damage to get through Old Ben as well. He is a good tank. And again, every time they're not hitting or they're missing, is going to be 30% turn meter for you. So that's my second team. That I really, really like that team. And then going
I like that one too. I find it really annoying. Even now, like if I've gotten stuck and it's stuck in the back, and I've used all my really good characters, and I'm against that, and I'm taking in my trash, and there's no unavoidable basics or evasion down characters, it can still ruin your life in the end game, believe it or not.
Too right. Or it's just a way of stripping banners as well. You know, if they take something harder in, that's fine. But again, you've got Sabine in there to automatically take three banners off them. If she gets a turn, I think she starts off with her AOE most of the time. I can't quite remember how the computer plays it, but the second team out of the Phoenix I've got is slightly interchangeable. I've got Hera as the lead, obviously, and then you've got three other characters that you can plug and play in there. You've got Zeb, you've got Kanan, and Kanan, I still haven't actually got the Zeta on this guy, but this guy is an incredibly good tank. Or you can play in with Chopper as well as there, and have two Taunters. And when you think about Hera, she's also going to have that, revive ability. So your opponent has really backup plan, I think it's called. But your opponent really has to time killing your characters as well. Otherwise, it's just going to either time out or they're going to eventually get chipped away as well. So Phoenix, I think, are really, really good in 3v3.
Yeah. Phoenix, I mean, in the early game, Phoenix are actually the bane of a lot of players. I mean, apart from people who've bought sort of the Hyperdrive bundle and they're unlocking Jedi Knight Revan day one, but for free-to-play players, Phoenix are your go-to faction, I find. I mean, it was a little after my time when it sort of got discovered, but they're the absolute bane of an early game player's existence if you don't have them or if you're facing them.
Yeah, too right. And I, genuinely, I haven't put enough work into my Phoenix, but they're actually not. They're quite a heavy investment, but they're actually pretty good mid and end game as well. There's a lot of teams that do beat them, unfortunately, and in my opinion, they're not worth the grind to get to Gear 13 at the moment. But they are a nice team, and they can cause people problems. If someone else has a very good Wampa, again, don't go setting this team on defense. He will just take care of them. If they don't, feel free to set it. Now, my fourth team is going to be one sort of a little bit leaving the mid game and transitioning a little bit into leaving the early game, transition a little bit into the mid game. Is going to be Bastila Shan lead, General Kenobi, and Grandmaster Yoda. So you have a leader in there who's, I mean, even if you don't have that leadership on there, because the leadership will put tenacity up, but you still, even at level 7, you still get the 15% turn meter and the protection up, and that is every single time. So if they have failed a battle against that team once, they still get that 200% protection there as well, and that is based off health. So you still have that without even the Zeta. That's a great leadership. I would recommend the Zeta. I think that is a good Zeta. Kenobi, you can always swap him out for another tank in the Jedi faction possibly, or if you prefer putting old Ben in there. Again, you do have to run a certain amount of heroic tank raids, but he's still pretty good and viable at 5 or 6 star as well. He is going to cause people issues. And Grandmaster Yoda is just going to be your damage dealer as well. And honestly, this is a hard team to get through early game. That Bastila Shan lead.
Frustrating.
Yep. And I've been caught out many a times. I've gone in way too soft so many times against Bastila Shan leads as well, and it's almost cost me a lot of matches, I'll be honest. My next team is going to be to split, because you get 5 Night Sisters in the Hyperdrive bundle. You get Talzin, you get the only one you don't get is Zombie. So you get Spirit, you get Talia, you get Asajj, and you get Dakar as well. So I've split them up into 2 teams. So I've got Talzin, I've got Spirit, and I've got Talia as well. So I've got no tank because they're going to be able to revive, and also Talia is going to heal on her basic as well. And then I've got Asajj, Zombie, who you do have to farm, or you then have Dakar as well, who's going to be reviving. So I like to split my Night Sisters to make 2 teams as well. I find that early game and mid game, they're a lot better on defense than they are on offense. And, late game, I find that switches a little bit because they do have a lot of viability. And then... yeah, Night Sisters, your thoughts on Night Sisters very quickly?
They're amazing in the early game. I think once people start sort of getting their Bosks sorted out and their Djangos and their bounty hunter faction sorted out, Mandalorian and stuff, they sort of lose their defensive viability because Bosk if you've got it modded right, Bosk will just absolutely smash even a Relic Night Sister team, a Gear 12 Bosk team. If it's got the right mods, will smash a Night Sister team into the ground. Especially if you've got Mando, because he's basically just going to pop shot that contract's not hard. No. It goes off pretty quick. And you can just pop shot the big threats like Talia and Asajj, and then Daka's stuck trying to revive and she can't do it. Night Sisters are amazing, and yeah, when you split them up, I mean, you've got two amazing leaders. You've got Asajj and Talzin, not Talia, Talzin. Both of them are just frustrating in 3v3 because Asajj stun locks. And Talzin, if she gets enough plague out there and you haven't gone in with a really good team, it just starts eating away at you. And it's annoying. It's a bit like the Bastila team in a sense that if you don't put someone down, it's kind of like the Bastila team, but it's basically if you put someone down and you go back in, there's all the chance they could get revived. So it's
disgusting.
Yeah, Night Sisters are evil in the early game. Absolutely.
They sure 100%. Are. And my last two teams, I'm going to wrap these up very quick, and then we're going to go over to yourself, Licol. But I think, like, Rebels, very good. Admiral Akbar is a great use, great leader. And I've got Wedge and Biggs in there. I think that can do some big damage. I think that can strip a lot of banners as well. Or, interestingly, you can go with a Wedge lead as well. That's going to up their damage. So it can cause a lot of people a lot of problems. And then my very last team is you do get 3 501st members. So you get 3 clones. You get a few more clones, actually. But the 3 that I'm interested in is going to be Rex, is going to be Echo, and then it's going to be 5s as well. Now, obviously, early game, these are very, like... Clones are very, very good. And when you think about Rex's lead as well, the Brothers in Arms lead, that is incredibly good. You're going to get a lot...
It used to be the meta moon.
Too right, yeah. And it's not the meta anymore, but it's still a very, very good lead. And these are quick characters. Or Rex, going form up, these guys are going to either strip banners or cause your opponent an absolute headache as well. So 100% worth gearing these characters up because the 501st are absolutely fantastic. So that wraps up my my early game or early-ish game teams for defense or offense as well. Again, Vader is going to be probably one of the people's first Gear 13 a lot of the time. Even at Gear 12 he's very good, but he really does come alive. But genuinely I feel that he's a lot better placed on offense than defense. So all of these teams I've put as more a defensive minded teams as well. So going into yours, what are your mid-game teams that you like to see or that you like to place on defense or on offense?
Well, I think the first team people should be sorting out, because the requirements are easy-ish. I mean, Chewie's not, but is CLS. Defense or offense. In the mid-game, these guys are an absolute pain. And in the mid-game, sort of the end of the mid-game, there's only really one team that sort of really sort of hard deals with them, and that's sort of Jedi Knight Revan sort of people at the end of the mid-game starting to unlock him. CLS is a pain. In 3v3, he's an absolute pain. He's not so bad in 5v5, but they just regenerate. They burst damage so fast. They get turn meter every time they resist. Luke starts granting the team turn meter when he gets going. Both Han and Luke and Chewie stun. So it's basically damage, control, and stalling all in one. These 3 characters, and if you don't get rid of Chewie, you can often take in some really good teams and that they do some damage, and then they're back up to full health once they get rolling.
Yeah.
I remember when I was sort of in the mid game taking Bastila lead against a CLS team, and it just got destroyed because the constant resisting from Bastila's lead, the turn meter reduction and Luke's debuffs was just feeding them turn meter, and they just took me down one by one, and the team looked like it hadn't even been touched.
But the
end of the battle,
the easy way to actually sort of get around this counter is having a faster Han Solo and just gunning down Chewbacca as well. So I think it is absolutely worth trying to get your Han Solo pretty quick as well. And, the more mods that you can have an advantage on, this guy certainly in 3v3 or 5v5, it's worth having some faster mods, because it used to be a coin toss, and now, as we currently are, it's going to be the faster Han Solo goes first, basically. So which is a little bit better in my opinion. But yeah, that will get you that's a fair trade-off, I feel, in 3v3. And
well, it's an equal trade, isn't it? That's the thing. Like when you're doing 3v3 or 5v5, it's whether or not you can take in less or you take in equal. It's you generally don't like to be overkilling until you're sure you can kill everything on the board.
That's it. So what's your
fair enough.
Yeah, exactly. And what's your second team?
My second team would be, I think this is again sort of late mid game, is the Sith Triumvirate. Now, you might remember, Moon, back in the day, me and you don't get to enjoy the Sith Trio for what they used to be, which is they just used to be this amazing, frustrating defensive team, and they just used to annihilate everything on offense. Night Sister's Nest, even a CLS if it didn't play right, even a Jedi Knight Revan in 3v3, not so much 5v5, but even a Jedi Knight Revan in 3v3 if the AI didn't play correctly. And nowadays, like in the end game, they are just relegated to the job of bug spray and pest control. You're either using them versus Mon Mothma or you're using them versus the bugs. But I think in mid game, people haven't really, or a lot of players won't have developed out their bugs, so you can get this team on defense and you can see it hold, and you can use it on offense to just obliterate Night Sisters. I mean, even in 5v5, just the 3 characters of the trio can take on a lot of teams. They're deadly. They're a time bomb, and you know they're a time bomb for your enemy, and they're a good time bomb for you, because once Nihilus starts going, that's it.
And if you put them on defense, again, your opponent now has to work out, well, what's a counter, because a lot of people aren't used to taking on that in on defense. It's not something you'd see on Territory Wars. It's something that they're going to have to think pretty hard outside the box, and they're going to be losing a lot of good teams against this as well. So your third team for us.
Absolutely. I mean, there's only really... Sorry, when I'll just wrap up. There's only really in the mid game 2 counters, I think, to the trio that are reliable, and that is CLS and Jedi Knight Revan, and even they get dicey in 3v3. Not so much in 5v5, but in 3v3, God, if you're unlucky and Nihilus gets going, it's game over.
Yeah, Jedi Training Ray weirdly is a very hard counter to Sith Triumvirate, but they have to be quick and they have to be well geared as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I always remember losing my Jedi Training Ray to the trio, so I didn't know that.
But yeah, high enough level, they're going to be able to take these guys out as well. So yeah, your third team?
Yeah, absolutely. My third team, this is one of the cheaper teams, is basically Nest plus 2 level 1 characters for defense and just Nest on her own for offense. Nest is like Maluk. She's just plug and play, and she is frustrated. She's your worst nightmare on defense because she locks out so many teams. If you have a slow with high tenacity, Jedi Knight Revan will struggle in 3v3. CLS will struggle. I mean, CLS it'll become an impossible match, especially if you've got 2 level 1 characters, because once Nest gets her protection built up and Chewie puts down tenacity down, and Luke and Han start, reducing turn meter, she's stuck in a loop, then she becomes invincible. She's absolutely frustrating. I still use this in the end game, and it still catches people out. And on offense, I mean, in the mid game, you will see people, you won't see this in end game, but in the mid game, you will see people sort of putting down Ewoks still, because they've had to work them for their 3POs and stuff. She will solo a lot of teams. She can solo Padme if you've got the mods right, and she can, solo Ewoks. She can solo a lot of teams by herself. So, Nest on her own for offense is my third team, and Nest with 2 level 1 characters for a defensive team, because Nest basically get her to gear 13 and she'll do work for you.
And if you're struggling for tenacity, even one of those characters might go in the leadership slot. Is Farm Boy Luke. He has a really good leadership when it comes to even that 3v3, because that's going to stick around. It's going to jack her tenacity up hugely as well. So yeah, nice pick on that one. Team number 4.
Team number 4, we're getting into more sort of end of the mid game. Vader, Thrawn, and Shore Trooper.
Okay.
This team is timeless. I would say. I mean, this team will beat, even in the end game. This team's going to beat Darth Revan. It's going to beat so many teams. And for me, it's your, I'm in a tight spot. I don't know what's going to work, sort of team. So I'll take in this because Thrawn will shut down whoever, whoever's a big threat. And then Vader will just go to town, start laying down those dots, and you go into the massacre. That rework on Vader is just, it's just brought him up to that A grade.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, you don't really need Shaw at a high gear. You just need him there to sort of take the first hit.
Yep, he's a pre-taunting tank. That's all he needs to do is take that first hit, so they can't ability block or whatever it is that you need for Vader to go into Merciless. So,
I mean, in the mid game, there's only really two teams again that are gonna stop this guy, and that's CLS. Don't risk Vader versus CLS because there's a 1 in 3 chance that he'll just stun Vader off the bat and maybe take him out. And Jedi Knight Revan, anyone who can go around a taunt, this isn't going to work against. But everything else, it will trash if you've got the mods right and the gear right.
Too right. And going on that with Thrawn as well, the hardest 3v3 team I have ever faced in the mid game was Palpatine lead. It was Thrawn, and then it was Darkside Basti. And oh my god, I just could not get through it simply because they were generating so much turn meter. I feel it's probably a little bit too expensive. But again, that without knowing what to use on it, that was incredibly difficult. So, and whenever you're ready, your team number 5.
So this is definitely sort of moving into the end game, but it's with the cheaper, easier to get characters, and that would be General Grievous, B2, and Magna Guard. Okay. B1 Androidica are a hard node farm, so I don't really think they're mid game, but you can farm up General Grievous in the fleet store. You can get B2 from the Squad Arena store, I believe, or he's on a Cantina node, an easy one, and you can get Magna in the Squad Arena store, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
you can get these guys. These guys are accessible, is what I'm saying, basically.
Yeah.
Grievous is a pain. He's a pain in all levels of the game. He's an absolute pain in the behind. You're not getting out of it with full banners unless you're taking in sort of GLs or something like that. So in mid-game, you've got no chance. He counters so many teams, and just you slap him on defense. Never slap him on offense because he will take his own banners, which is a little bit annoying. But
yeah, and this guy,
he's a monster.
Yeah, this guy does not need to be Relic 7. This guy works well at gear level 11 or 12 simply because of that AoE. It hits pretty hard. Just stack him for health. Obviously, the higher up he goes, the harder he's going to hit or the more health he's got. But honestly, he works quite well. And a lot of people, even at this level, where we're at the moment, there's still, in territory wars, people are losing against a gear 12 Grievous because they're not respecting it enough to take in a very hard counter. So I still see they're the ones that actually hold the most is because people try and get cheap with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at any gear level, the thing is, once you've got that Metalloid monstrosity Zeta on him, you can't stop the guy going. So at worst, you're coming out of it with or your protection banner's gone, and at best they're going to get you some holds because again in the sort of the mid game, there's not really much that will tackle a decently modded and geared General Grievous team, especially if B2's in there and he's hiding under stealth. Grievous forces something hard. You cannot. There's no cheap team that can take down Grievous.
Too right, yeah, too
not
right.
One. You're eating your trio. You're gonna eat your CLS. You're gonna have to eat your Jedi Knight Revan. If you're talking, sort of mid game teams.
Yeah, Padme's
you're just
always
not gonna get through him with cheap.
Yeah, Padme's always a shaky counter. Shakti clones is really shaky as well. So yeah, this guy demands respect as well. So I absolutely agree. That's one that should be probably placed on defense every single time in 3v3. And have you got
front wall, bang him on?
Yeah, exactly, and let the opponent work it out as well. And have you got any more for us?
Well, at the very pinnacle, the characters I sort of see as the pinnacle of mid-game, the end of the mid-game, is Jedi Knight Revan. So Jedi Knight Revan, Jolie, and Yoda. Slap that on defense. If your opponent doesn't have a Darth Revan, it's just going to frustrate the hell out of them because that team just regens like mad. Yoda is like a little monkey on steroids bouncing around the place. There's that savior, and believe it or not, that savior is reset every time the opponent drops a battle against it. So even if you trigger it, it's gonna be there again. And Jolie revives. So if you've got Jolie at and you're in the mid game, and you've got Jolie at any semblance of relics, or very very good health mods and crit avoidance mods, and a bit of tenacity, he's so hard to gun down. He's really like Jolie will give the rebels without 3PO a run for their money in terms of how much punishment he'll take before he goes down.
I'll be honest, a lot of these might not be one shots. What you might have to do is kill off Grandmaster Yoda or twice, and then time out, and then go back into the battle as well, and then you've still got to deal. You've still got to kill twice.
Yeah, it just like.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, like, in the end game, Jedi Knight Revan has kind of become a bit trivial. To think that he was like the absolute pinnacle of character, like a couple of years ago. But in the mid game, he's a nightmare. He's your worst nightmare. You come up against someone with that in the mid game as a free to play player, without the hyperdrive bundle, without Darth Revan, and without these really sort of high premium characters. And Jedi Knight Revan is a brick wall. He's extremely frustrating, even in 3v3.
Oh, right.
Once it gets going.
Yep, and
the lead is incredible.
Yeah, the lead is just a wall of text. That was the first significantly complex lead I think this game ever had. But yeah, I mean, in terms of that, very, very tough team. I remember struggling hugely against this team as well myself in early 3v3s or mid-game 3v3s. It was always a little bit of a ballsy move to put it on defense, but it gave all the opponents real headaches because they've now got to get through. And if your counter doesn't work, especially in the mid-game where you are stretched already, it can be good night as well. So yeah,
absolutely. In mid-game, you've got two counters. Trio can sometimes work, but you have to have the tenacity mods on Traya to stop a health getting reduced ridiculously. And it can still go pear-shaped then. And CLS, and again, CLS is the same. You've got to play it right. You've got to hit Joey first, hope that all the debuffs that Han tries to apply get resisted. It's it's awful. I just remember I remember myself, like, the team just being, before I had Jedi Knight Revan, the team was just a headache, absolute headache of a team, because it's boring even to use Jedi Knight Revan, I feel, because it's a slow team. It kind of relies on stalling out the enemy and just regenning itself back to life and letting Yoda just sort of be beasting the...
Yeah, too right. And, well, thank you very much for spending...
Absolutely. Jedi Knight Revan is the pinnacle of the game.
Oh, you've just caught up with us on sound. I think it just glitched there, so I think we're back there. But, Licol, thank you very, very much.
Yeah. Oh, I just said, like, Jedi Knight Revan, pinnacle of mid-game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely agree. Now, you're a very good friend of the channel, so I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't give you a plug as well. So, where can we find more of you, and what is there where you find you?
So, okay, trying to sell my channel, I feel like the old guy from Jack and the Beanstalk trying to sell magic beans. The beans of magic, but you have to believe. I do a sci-fi audiobook series. You can find it at the Shifterverse. If you type in Shifterverse on YouTube, it's the first thing that comes up. Just look for the rubbish artwork. I guess I would have to say give it a chance. The first 4 chapters have some questionable narration, and the 5th chapter does too. There's some dodgy writing in the first 4 chapters too. All I can really say is I would appreciate if you could come and check it out. The channel's not dead. It looks dead, but it's more just I'm trying to do the book. I'm trying to finish the second half of the book to upload in one go, rather than just sort of drips and drabbing it. I would really, anyone who listens to this, I would really appreciate if you could come check it out. It would honestly mean a lot to me. It's free. There's no sort of catch to it or anything. It's just a solid sci-fi story,
and production values are absolutely fantastic. You can also find it on my channel if you go to channels. It should be there as Shifterverse as well. I'll leave a description in the link, link in the description down below as well. So yeah, really, really good stuff as well. So send on over Shifterverse your love. He does a lot for the channel. He also does an Under the Hood, so hopefully you guys have managed to catch that as well. But there is more on the way from him. very shortly as well. So, Licol, thank you very much once again for dropping by. And
absolute pleasure, Moon, as always.
Good luck with your 3v3 as well. I forgot to say, your audiobook is Star Wars inspired, isn't it, as well? So
yeah,
if you,
definitely Star Wars Game of Thrones. If you like Star Wars meeting Game of Thrones, that would be my best way of describing it.
There we are. Top man. Thank you very much once again for joining the channel. We absolutely love what you do for the channel as well. So yeah, thank you very much, and we will see you all next time. Cheers, guys. Hello once again. It's your